It always starts the same way. She looks at you, but not for who you are. She sees who you might become. You feel it, don't you? That flicker in her eyes. Is it hope or is it hunger? You think you're being seen, but you're not. You're being measured, scanned, assessed, like a blank canvas. Not admired, prepared for painting. But the masterpiece she imagines? It's not you. It never was. Carl Jung warned us, not with soft TED Talk quotes, but with the raw, piercing words of a man who spent his life staring into the abyss of the human mind. He mapped what we now call the unconscious, the invisible layer beneath everything you think you know. And what he found was terrifying. He discovered this. Women don't just fall in love with men. They fall in love with the idea of men, the fantasy, the projection, and the scariest part, they don't even know they're doing it. You might think she's choosing you, but what she's really choosing is the version of you she created in her mind, a psychological puppet designed to play a role in her private screenplay. And when you stop fitting that role, she won't rewrite the script. She'll recast the actor. Jung called this projection the animus, the inner masculine image that lives inside every woman. When that animus is immature, undeveloped, or unchecked, it becomes a tyrant. It becomes the hidden force. That makes women chase men who destroy them and reject the ones who could help them grow. It makes them argue without reason, control without wisdom, moralize without accountability. Jung didn't sugarcoat this. He called it spiritual possession, a state where the woman becomes unaware, no longer acting from her own mind, but from a shadow voice, rooted in her unconscious masculine fantasy. And men, we fall for it every time because nobody taught us to spot it. You confuse being wanted with being understood. You think you're special because she says you're different, but you're not. You're just the newest face. She's hired to fill a role. She's been rehearsing since childhood. And when the illusion fades, when the fantasy starts to crack, you feel lost, rejected, even betrayed. But you didn't mess up. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped being a convincing actor in someone else's story. Jung said there's only one way out of this psychological theater: individuation. It's not glamorous. It's not poetic. It's brutal. It's the lifelong path of becoming whole within yourself. And here's the hard truth. Most men never begin that journey. You've been trained to chase her smile, to earn her approval, to shape yourself to her standards, to let her decide your worth. And as long as you do, you'll keep playing the same role until the next curtain falls and she replaces you with someone new. Individuation requires a kind of courage no one claps for. It means facing the weak parts, the insecure, the broken, the parts you hide. It demands you stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. Because here's what Jung knew, that most men never learn. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. You don't earn your worth by being wanted. You earn it by standing alone, fully awake, fully responsible, fully alive. A man who has faced his unconscious cannot be seduced by projections. He's no longer a puppet. He's the author. Jung wrote that the true tragedy of modern men is not rejection, it's self-erasure. You call it compromise. You call it love. You call it being a good man. But Jung called it something else. Self-betrayal. Men who abandon their inner work become slaves to the feminine projection. They shape themselves like wet clay, bending into whatever form a woman unconsciously demands. You stop being a man. You start being a mask, smiling, agreeing, performing, until one day you forget who you were before you put the mask on. And women, they can sense this more than you know. The very traits you think will make her love you, obedience, predictability, availability, become the reasons she loses attraction. Why? Because Jung said, The feminine instinct isn't drawn to safety. It's drawn to mystery, to risk, to the man she cannot define, cannot mold, cannot predict. The moment you strip away your edges, the moment you let her see everything, no mystery, no backbone, you don't become more lovable. You become invisible, replaceable. And here's the cruel paradox. You fear being alone more than you fear being fake. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. You'd rather be applauded for the role than face the silence of being real. But Jung said, until a man embraces that silence, he will never be free. He wrote that individuation is a path for the few, not because it's hidden, but because it requires you to die before you die, to let the false selves burn, so that something true can finally rise. But here's the part no one tells you. Individuation is lonely, terrifyingly lonely, because when you begin to see clearly, you start to notice things you can't unsee. You begin to see the roles people play, the scripts they follow, the masks they cling to, just to feel safe. And when you try to share what you see, they mock you. They say you're arrogant, cold, too serious, detached. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror. And people hate the mirror when it reflects something they're not ready to face. Jung saw this every day. He spent decades with patients, terrified to face their shadow, the rejected, buried parts of themselves. Women especially, he warned, are often raised in cultures that reward them for avoiding that confrontation. They're told they're pure, emotional, intuitive, complete just as they are. But Jung didn't buy it. He wrote that the greatest danger to women is their unconscious animus, that voice inside that speaks with false certainty, false authority, false superiority. And when a woman doesn't confront it, she becomes possessed by it, projecting it onto every man she meets, blaming him for the war she refuses to fight within herself. And here you are, thinking you're the one to save her, thinking that if you just love her hard enough, prove yourself loud enough, she'll finally choose you. But that's not how projection works. Jung said projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with illusion. Until both men and women wake up, they'll keep reenacting the same tragedy, each blaming the other, never realizing they're dancing with shadows. And here's the most painful twist of all. The woman who once saw you as her hero, one day, she'll see you as her enemy. Not because you changed, but because you failed to fulfill the fantasy she never told you were hired to play. You didn't betray her. You didn't lie. You just disappointed the invisible character she projected onto your face. Jung called this betrayal inevitable. When neither person takes responsibility for their inner world, people will do anything, he said, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their soul. And nowhere is that more true than in love. Two people enter a relationship, not as whole beings, but as projections, carrying wounds, fears, unmet needs, unlived truths. You call it love. Jung called it possession. And like a man hypnotized, you keep walking into the trap, hoping this time will be different. But it won't. Not until you ask the most terrifying question a man can ask. What if I am responsible for this pattern? You want to blame women, call them manipulative, accuse them of being shallow. But Jung would look you straight in the eyes and ask, why did you let yourself be chosen by that woman in the first place? You see, the man who refuses to confront his own inner feminine is destined to be a slave to hers. You're not a victim. You are a volunteer. You chose to be the actor. You chose to wear the mask because facing your own emptiness felt more terrifying than playing someone else's fantasy. And this is where most of you will stop listening, because this is where the comfort ends and the responsibility begins. Jung didn't offer 10 steps to alpha male success. He gave you something far harder, the lifelong assignment of sitting alone in the silence of your own mind until the illusions start to crack, until the voice in your head that says, "You're nothing without her," starts to die. And make no mistake, that voice will fight for its life. It will whisper, "You need her. You'll never be enough alone. No one can survive without love." But Jung's work whispered something even more dangerous. The man who can stand without her, without applause, without need, without being chosen, is the man who is finally free. Free from performance, free from projection, free from being a character in someone else's fantasy. And when you reach that place, you don't become cold. You become real, rooted, whole, fully alive in your own skin. And that's when something strange happens. Women feel it, not because you're trying to attract them, but because you're not. And that paradox draws them in, not out of desire to have you, but out of all that you don't need them. You'll smile, not because you're heartless, but because you finally understand. You understand that she has her own journey, that she must face her animus, her illusions, her inner chaos. And you can't do that work for her. You can only do what Jung did. Walk your path so clearly, so powerfully, that your presence becomes a mirror. Some will turn away. Most will, but a rare few. They'll thank you. And that is the difference between being loved for the role you play and being respected for the man you've become. And when that moment comes, when you no longer feel the need to perform, you'll notice something even stranger. People will shift around you. They'll feel it, even if they can't name it. The weight of your presence will unsettle them because you no longer fit into the categories they use to feel safe. Jung warned that the individuated man, the man who has walked through a shadow and come out the other side, is not welcomed by society. He's feared, misunderstood, labeled distant, arrogant, unreachable. But the truth is far more threatening. You have simply become untouchable, unbuyable, unmanipulable, because you see the game now. You see through it. And here's where it gets ironic. The very people who used to beg for your attention, your validation, your approval, they'll start resenting you, especially women, still possessed by the fantasy of the perfect man. They'll call you emotionally unavailable, too much in your head, too cold, too analytical. But what they really mean is, they can't control you anymore. You stepped off their stage. You stopped reading from their script. And now, without that script, they don't know how to engage with you, because you're no longer a character. You're a man. Jung once joked that the gods have become our diseases. What ancient cultures used to call divine possession, we now call neurosis. And make no mistake, men chasing validation are among the most spiritually sick of all. You think you're being romantic when you say, "I'd do anything for her. She's my everything." But Jung would shake his head and say, what you call love is really a refusal to carry your own soul. It's easier to project it onto her, to make her the keeper of your meaning, your purpose, your peace. Because if she carries it, you don't have to. But here's the twist that will wreck you. When she realizes she was never designed to carry your soul, she will drop it. She has to. No woman, no matter how loving, can hold the weight of a man who refuses to hold himself. And when she drops it, you'll feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her, because in that moment, when the illusion shatters, you finally face the truth. The work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. And in that raw moment of clarity, you have two options. You can blame her, mock her, join the angry mob of men who swear off women, but never confront themselves. Or you can do what Jung would have demanded of you. Turn inward. Start the lonely, terrifying, liberating work of individuation, the work of becoming whole, without needing someone else to complete you. Because the woman you've been searching for out there, she's a reflection. of the part of you you've abandoned. Until you reclaim that part, every relationship will be a performance, every love a lie, every connection a transaction. But when you finally face that abandoned part of yourself, when you integrate your inner feminine, your intuition, your emotion, your longing, you stop chasing women. You stop needing them to validate you. You stop performing, and you stand still, rooted, centered, whole. And from that stillness, something miraculous happens. You begin to attract women who don't want a character. They want the truth. And you'll know her when she arrives, because she won't ask you to perform. She won't seduce you with fantasy. She won't try to rewrite your script. She won't come to complete you. She'll come as someone who has already completed herself. She'll stand before you, not as a goddess to be worshipped, but as a woman who has done her own work. She's met her shadow, faced her animus, burned through her own illusions. She doesn't need you to carry her soul. She carries it herself, and she'll look at you, not as a man she hopes to fix, but as a man she's finally ready to meet. In that meeting, there will be no clinging, no games, no masks, no predictions, just two whole beings, choosing each other, without illusion. And Jung said, that is the rarest kind of love, the kind that demands nothing, but offers everything, not born of need, but born of freedom. Freedom to walk away, freedom to stay, freedom to stand together. Not because you complete each other, but because you see each other clearly. But here's the hard truth. Most men will never get there. Most will quit. They'll settle for the fantasy, the role, the cheap thrill of being admired for who they are not, because the journey of becoming who you are still feels unbearable. But if you have the courage, the real, gut-wrenching courage, to keep walking that path alone, you will one day find yourself standing at the edge of something terrifyingly beautiful, yourself. And when you do, you'll stop looking to women to define your masculinity. They won't be your mirror anymore. They won't be your source. They'll become something else entirely. Partners, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not saviors. And you'll love them, not because you need them, but because you choose them. From strength, from fullness, from a place that knows, without apology, who you are. Carl Jung didn't leave us a map. He left us a warning that every man who refuses to confront himself will become a slave to other people's projections. But he also left us a challenge to walk the path of individuation, to stop blaming women for the roles we volunteer to play, to stop begging to be chosen, and start choosing ourselves. Because the man who chooses himself, without hesitation, without apology, without compromise, that man is unshakable. He cannot be controlled by illusion. He cannot be seduced by performance. He cannot be reduced to a role, because he is no longer a player in someone else's movie. He has become the author. And if you've made it this far, if something inside you has awakened, don't scroll past this. Act. Share this. Send it to another man who's still asleep, still living for applause, still waiting to be chosen. Because maybe you've seen the truth, but he hasn't yet. And together, maybe we can wake up the world, one man at a time.